This laptop cost 360 euros if you use the coupon code that I will leave down below. The first thing that I did when it arrived was to take all the screws completely off. We're supposed to only take one and open this small door here to upgrade the RAM stick, but if we remove all the screws, we can access all of the laptop and upgrade both RAM sticks up to 64 gigs and also replace the SSD. I've already tested with a 2TB WD Black and it works awesome. Okay, there we go. So right over here we will find the slot for the RAM stick that we can have access if we open that door that I showed, but once we remove everything here we will have access to this one right over here as well. So we can put 32 plus 32, 64 total, and then the SSD right over here, M.2 NVMe, that we can replace. I already replaced with the WD Black 2TB. Works awesome. So for those that want to upgrade, great. Also, in terms of the battery, as I've showed a few weeks or a couple of months ago, because time just flies by, I do have a laptop similar to this with 7 years old. I did replace the battery. It was really cheap, ordered from Amazon, and in a couple of days was here, replaced, and the laptop was good as new. So in terms of the upgradability and the replacement of the battery, easy and thumbs up. It has a 14 inches Quad HD display with a really decent IPS panel, especially when we consider the price. But if we want a bigger screen, we can also connect it via HDMI or USB Type-C, which supports video, data transfer, and also charging at the same time. The screen is glossy with good colors, although we will need to watch out for reflections, which is typical with this type of display. If we point it directly to a light source like that one right over there, then we will be flashed with that light source depending on the angle that we are. So we will need to adjust the angle that we will be using. But using it even with strong lights like I'm doing right over here, if I'm not directly pointed at the light, it's just awesome. And if we are on a darker environment, then we can see those colors and contrast. It comes with an Intel i5 CPU, 8 cores and 12 threads, 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigs of SSD, which for most people there are no upgrades necessary. But if we want to upgrade the RAM later on, we can just upgrade the second stick, or if we remove completely the bottom cover, we will be able to upgrade the RAM, the SSD, and replace the battery if we need to. It comes with Windows 11 Home Edition, and if we want to use it to play some games, we will be able to do so. I did test out a few games, and if we are talking about games like Asphalt Legends or Minecraft, we will be totally fine, either on the internal screen or even on an external monitor. I used my ultra-wide monitor at a much higher resolution and it performed really well for this type of game. And there are plenty other games that I didn't test out, but you will be able to play with this computer and the performance that it has. Now, if we want to play AAA gaming, then there are no miracles. Forza Horizon 5, for example, or FC25, we will need to use cloud gaming services on this computer, like the Xbox Game Cloud, which is the service that I use. So those games don't run locally, but they run in the cloud. So it's the same as watching Netflix, for example, but here we are not just watching, we are interacting with the game, but instead of using the hardware here, it's using the hardware on the servers. Although I use Xbox Game Cloud, it's my favorite service, but there are plenty of services that you can choose from. If you're not looking for a computer for gaming, like myself, I don't play games on a daily basis, but if you are looking for something for work, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, browsing the web, watching videos, taking notes, and the general student or teacher work, it's perfect. The CPU handles all of those tasks with ease. And once again, I did test out on my ultra-wide, so I was playing around with two displays, the internal display plus the external display at a much higher resolution, with several windows open, multitasking, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, browsing the web, taking notes, and no issues whatsoever. Even if we want to do some light video editing or photo editing, then as long as we keep it simple, it will be total fine. I did test out with DaVinci Resolve, a 4K vertical timeline, about 5 minutes long or so, and without any effects, it handled editing reasonably well. It's not perfect, it's not the machine that I would suggest, but it worked well. It took about 15 minutes to render, and if we don't apply any effects, editing is possible. But if we start applying one effect here to this layer, one effect here to that layer, then it will start slowing down the computer and the experience will not be so good. Now, in terms of rendering, even if it takes 6, 7 or 8 times, that's not an issue because we can end our timeline and then before we go to bed we put it to render and the next day we are okay. But in terms of the editing, which is the most important part of this workflow, we have to keep it simple to use this kind of machine. And if it's simple, then yeah, it has Wi-Fi 6, and on my testing I didn't get the maximum of my connection, which is 500 megabits per second, but it was close, about 370, 380 megabits per second. The SSD is fast. It reached about 2500 megabytes per second reads and on writes, and on Geekbench, so that you can compare with other machines, it scores well for the kind of laptop that we are talking about, which once again, 360 euros. It's not easy to find a computer such as this, with screen, with a keyboard, with a trackpad, with everything and the hardware that we are seeing for this price. It has a backlit keyboard, which is a chiclet keyboard, a nice and decent keyboard. It has the US international layout, which might take a couple of weeks if you are used to some other layouts. In my particular case, PTPT, which is Portugal. We use the accents and other type of letter and punctuation in different places, but if we use it for about 2 weeks or so, we will get used to it. I'm used to use US International for quite some time, so I'm really used, and sometimes when I change to my PTPT, I get a bit mixed. But if we use this one here or the other one, then we will get used to it, no issues whatsoever. In terms of the trackpad, 5.8 inches. It's a really nice trackpad. It takes the whole bottom of the laptop, which, by the way, this is plastic right over here, a good plastic on the keyboard here on this area, but on the top lid this is metal, and then on the bottom lid, which at this moment is open, it's metal as well. So in terms of build quality, it's quite decent. The plastics are good, and then the metal parts are good as well. On this side here, it has a USB Type-C, HDMI, USB Type-A, and a charging port, although we can also charge via USB with fast charging. On the other side, it has a USB Type-A, headphone jack, and a microSD card slot. The battery is a 46 watt-hour battery, and it will last about 4 to 7 hours if we are browsing the web and using multitasking. Now, on the test that I was doing right over there, I was connected via USB Type-C to my ultra-wide display, which means that it's fully charged. It's being charged as we use. But if we are using a second display via HDMI, then we are not connected and we are using more power because we are driving more graphics for the external display that we are using. So just have that in mind. If you are using an external display, it would be a better idea to connect so that it keeps on charge. But if we are using the internal display, then we will be more than fine. And I would say that more on the range of the 6 to 7 hours browsing Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. If we start playing games, then the battery will deplete faster, which is usual. All in all, is a budget-friendly computer, especially for those that are looking for something to start the new school year at a budget price. But at the same time, we don't want to go so low that we will lose a lot of features, a lot of quality, a lot of performance. And here I believe that Chuwi did a great work in terms of the balance of what we can get for the price that we pay. And it's not an easy task, especially when we consider what we find in the market. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and if you did so, don't forget the usual thumbs up right over there, which is really appreciated on this side of the screen. My name is Roberto, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.